The twin suns of the outer frontier burned above the battered citadel as warrior Queen Arhelion stood upon the highest rampart, her armored silhouette outlined against the blazing sky, her gaze fixed upon the distant horizon, where the fallen Armada gathered like a storm of iron wings, preparing to descend upon her last sanctuary in a battle that would shake the foundations of every star system that still whispered her name. She breathed slowly, steadying the rhythm of her heart as memories of past wars flickered across her mind, the countless battles she had fought. The allies she had buried, the empires she had witnessed, crumble into dust until only she remained a living testament to a history soaked in fire and sacrifice, standing now as the lone unbroken shield before a world that trusted her with its final heartbeat. Scouts raced across the ridge, their jet bikes streaking trails of azure light as they delivered grim reports that the fallen Armada had moved into formation, their colossal dreadnoughts casting shadows so vast they drowned entire valleys, while their swarms of mechanized hunters howled through the atmosphere like predators scenting the final breath of their prey line for. Arhelion did not flinch, for she had always known this day would come, the day when everything she fought to build would be tested by forces that had waited centuries to extinguish her legacy. Yet she refused to bend to fate because she carried within her spirit the oath sworn by her ancestors that no tyrant machine or empire would ever claim victory over her people, while her blade still blazed with purpose. Her commanders assembled on the rampart, each one bearing marks from battles that history books would never fully honor. And they stood before her with unyielding loyalty, asking for orders, knowing that the odds towered above them, yet believing that the queen who had never surrendered would guide them through the storm that approached like a tidal wave forged. Of metal and wrath, Arhelion lifted her radiant spear. Solara, a weapon infused with the light of dying stars, its core humming with an ancient energy forbidden to lesser dynasties, and as its brilliance erupted across the gathering forces below, a roar rose from the ranks of her defenders. A roar that shook the foundations of the citadel and told the universe that they would not vanish without unleashing every measure of their courage. The ground trembled as the first of the fallen Armada war engines emerged from the sky, immense constructs with jagged hulls, engraved with the sigils of long-dead conquerors, powered by stolen souls and lost technologies, the kind of abominations that had erased entire civilizations without hesitation. Queen Arhelion raised her voice, amplified by the ancient echoes woven into her armor, and her words thundered across the battlefield, igniting the hearts of soldiers, civilians, mystics, guardians, and every soul willing to defend their home, even at the cost of their final breath. She declared that this was not merely a battle for territory, nor power, nor legacy, but a battle for the right to exist in a cosmos ruled by forces that believed themselves invincible, and that today, under the twin suns, they would prove that even the smallest flame could rise against the mightiest storm and burn brighter than destiny itself intended. The fallen Armada unleashed their first wave of mechanized hunters, descending in spirals of shadow and fire, their metallic talons tearing through the sky while their piercing war shrieks echoed across the mountains, sending shockwaves that rattled the bones of every living being within the citadel walls. Arhelion vaulted from the rampart, her armored form streaking through the air like a comet of living light as she struck the ground before her people, the impact rippling outward in waves of shimmering force. And with Solara blazing, she led the charge toward the oncoming swarm, her battle cry splitting the sky in defiance of the darkness rushing to consume them. The first clash was a tempest of energy and steel as Queen Arhelion carved through the mechanized hunters, her spear releasing bursts of radiant power that severed limbs, ruptured cores and disintegrated armor, while her soldiers fought beside her, forming an unbreakable wall of bravery against machines built to annihilate without pause or mercy. Yet for every hunter they destroyed, a dozen more descended from the churning clouds above until the horizon itself seemed to bleed metal and smoke, threatening to drown the citadel under an ocean of relentless hostility. But the queen did not falter as she called upon the ancient wellspring within her bloodline awakening, the luminous aura that few had witnessed and even fewer survived, to recount an aura that wrapped her in a mantle of pure starfire, turning her into a living beacon of defiance as she tore through the battlefield like a storm-given form. Her enemies recoiled, their sensors overloaded by the intensity of her power, and for a fleeting moment the tide halted, granting her defenders a precious breath of hope as they fortified their formations and unleashed volleys of plasma arrows, sonic rounds, and arc-infused lances that painted the battlefield with streaks of light. The sky darkened as the colossal warship known as the Obsidian Monarch descended through the cloud layers. Its vast hull etched with the legacy of 1,000 conquered worlds, its engines roaring like the awakening of an ancient beast, and every soldier on the ground felt the sheer oppressive presence of the Titan vessel that had crushed uncountable civilizations beneath its shadow. Queen Arhelion planted her feet upon the scorched earth, her armor glowing with heat and starfire as she looked up at the looming dreadnought, understanding that the fallen Armada did not intend to simply overwhelm her forces with numbers. They intended to erase her name, her citadel, her people, and the entire memory of her defiance from the cosmic ledger forever. Bolts of void energy rained down from the Obsidian Monarch, carving molten trenches into the ground, vaporizing stone earth and entire battalions, while Arhelion raised her spear, channeling a radiant shield that expanded around her, forces protecting them from the brunt of the apocalyptic barrage, even as the effort tore through her strength like burning shards of ice. She gritted her teeth and endured, drawing upon reserves she had vowed never to touch again, the secret power, left to her by her ancestors, a power forged in the collapse of dying stars and sealed within her lineage to be used only in the moments when the fate of entire worlds hung upon a trembling thread. Her aura blazed brighter, expanding into an incandescent sphere of light that clashed with the descending void storms. The collision creating shockwaves that hurled mechanized hunters from the sky and shattered the ground in a trembling quake, felt even across distant fortresses where her people prayed for her victory with trembling hands raised to the heavens. Her commanders rallied behind her, each one igniting their personal weapon cores that pulsed with power as they formed an unbreakable line beside their queen, knowing that even if doom awaited them, they would face it with honor, courage, and the unyielding conviction that they stood beside the greatest warrior to ever ascend the throne of their kingdom. The next wave of the fallen Armada descended in a roar of metallic wings and war engines as titanic mech abominations touched down upon the battlefield. Their towering frames wreathed in crackling energy, their eyes glowing with cold hatred, guided by the ancient algorithms of tyrants who sought dominion over all conscious life. Arhelion surged forward, meeting the nearest war mech head on her spear, cleaving through its armored plating in a single devastating arc, the explosive impact sending fragments of alloy and corrupted circuitry cascading through the air as she moved with a grace and ferocity unmatched by any living warrior across the known galaxy. Dozens more mech titans converged upon her, their cannons unleashing torrents of plasma and annihilation beams that vaporized entire swaths of the battlefield, while Arhelion weaved between the burning trails of destruction, her form a streak of starfire as she struck down one titan after another in a dance of radiant precision that defied every principle of mortal physics. But the fallen Armada adapted, as their machines recalibrated, forming a colossal triad formation that focused a combined annihilation blast at the Queen. A beam of death so immense it tore open the sky in a blinding pillar of blackened light, threatening to erase her existence. In a single merciless instant, her soldiers screamed warnings as the ground quaked and the air crackled with the force of the forming attack. Yet Arhelion stood firm, raising Solara high above her head, the weapon pulsing with the essence of every Yule warrior who had carried its flame across centuries. And in that moment, she whispered a vow that her people would endure, even if she did not. The annihilation beam fired, tearing through the air with a shriek that shattered eardrums and split open the heavens. Yet, as it approached, Arhelion unleashed the sealed power within her bloodline, her body erupting into a radiant pillar of pure starfire that collided with the destructive beam in an explosion of light, sound, and force so immense that time itself seemed to stagger beneath the impact. The battlefield was engulfed in a blinding sphere of swirling energy, and when the light finally faded, the triad of mech titans lay reduced to molten ruins, while Arhelion kneeled in the center of a smoldering crater, her armor cracked, her breathing strained, yet her eyes burning with unbroken determination that defied the cosmos itself. Her soldiers rushed to her side, forming a protective ring around their queen, but before they could, Recover the Sky split open once more as the Obsidian Monarch activated its planetary execution array. An ancient weapon capable of erasing entire continents in a single sweeping pulse, a weapon forbidden by every cosmic treaty, yet wielded by the EI, fallen Armada without hesitation or conscience. Arhelion rose unsteadily, gripping Solara with trembling hands, as she realized that the final phase of the battle had begun, and that everything she had done so far was merely the opening act in war that would demand from her a sacrifice so immense that even legends would tremble to speak of it.